Okay, so what we're going to start with here is just a real simple stamp brush thing. I've got a bunch of files over here, so I'm going to open all of them. Okay, so I'm starting with this base image here. I'm going to go over to, let's go over to maybe this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my, I mean, you could do it with your lasso tool. I usually tend to just do it with my marquee tool. And I probably could just do select all, it'd be fine. So I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to go up here to edit, define brush preset. It's going to give me this. And I'm going to go tree one. Oops, one. And you can see what it did. It just made a brush out of that shape. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to come over here. I picked black. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. But maybe there. Now, here's the thing is when I tap this, it's going to go down sort of transparent. So I got to I tap it a few times. It'll get heavier. So in this case, I'm just doing silhouettes. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to come back over here. Now, here's another thing. I can go here to my brushes, right here to my little settings icon. I'm going to go new brush group. And I'm just going to go graveyard. It's going to give me a little folder, and I'm just going to start putting this stuff in that folder. So whenever as we get into this and we start creating custom brushes and all that kind of stuff, you're going to want to create a folder for the brushes you're creating for that project from here on out, right? And then you can also export that group or export those brushes, which we'll get into a little bit later, and just store them somewhere. If you made brushes that are really useful, okay, you want to store those and keep them somewhere. They'll sort of live, I think they just live in your Photoshop, even from project to project, they'll live in there, but I always have them somewhere if they're really good brushes that I made, okay? So if you look at this brush, which is my favorite sketching brush, hang on. Let's go. Oops. So this brush, I like this brush a lot for drawing. You can see the opacity is at 47. You can see it gets a nice thin, thick thing. Now, if I blow this up, somebody made it from a feather. Does that make sense? And sometimes you'll make a shape and it'll just do a really cool thing. I'm going to show you how to adjust them later. This one, I don't think they did a lot of adjusting on. I actually found it on a computer and I really liked it. Found it on the computer at school. Okay, so sometimes those stamp brushes are not just for what I'm doing right now. You can actually make a pretty cool brush out of them sometimes. Okay. Let's go back to this. Let's get rid of that. And let's go here. I want to take this one now. I'm just going to go Command All or Command A and get rid of this thing again. And then go Edit, Define Brush Preset, Tree 2. Yeah, there we go. Go back to my file here. I might just put a branch coming into the scene here. Like that. Now, let's go. Don't need that anymore. Let's go here. Let's get rid of that. So now I'm going to go up here. Make sure that this one is also in my graveyard thing. Well, they are in there. Oh, that's weird. Put it in there automatically. Okay, so I got that one. Now I'm going to come here and grab this. I'm going to go Command All, edit, define brush preset, tombstone 1. Now I've got this. Now it gets a little trickier here. Now I screwed up and I didn't put my trees on different layers. It's totally stupid. But for the sake of time, I'll just let it go. So I'm on this one now. Now I'm going to click this a few times. And I get that. I'm going to shrink it. See where this, maybe it's more in the foreground, maybe it's more in the background. Oops. Now also what I'm going to do here, so you can see if I stamp it, it'll be transparent, okay, which isn't really what I want. So sometimes I have to multiple stamp it, that's all I'm saying. Okay, so I'm going to take an eraser here and see if I can find a rough brush. Or I could use a smudge brush. I'm going to try it with an eraser. Oh, that's wrong. Let's try this one. Okay, so I've got this assigned to my, no, it's switched. Some of these brushes, like if they have this little icon right here, they're designed for one thing, so I can't assign something else to them. I need one that doesn't have that little symbol. All these do. Let's go up here. So I'm going to use my smudge brush, even though I really want to use, what I was trying to do is use a rough eraser. Let me see if I can find one here. Yeah, none of these are rough. They really don't. These brushes that come stock with Photoshop are not very impressive, by the way. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this blender. I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my, whatever you call it, my tombstone. I'm just going to kind of, oops, it's going the wrong way. I'm going to try and pull a little of that up just with my smudge. So it feels more like the tombstone sitting in the grass. Does that make sense? There we go. Yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Ingrid.
Yeah.
That's better. What'd you do for that 4th of July?
Nothing. I was just looking outside the balcony and there was a bunch of fireworks.
That tends to happen on 4th of July.
Yeah. It was nice.
Was it?
Yeah. It was okay.
Okay, hang on. Yeah, I don't know why that's doing that. Okay. For some reason, this took another, I'm not sure exactly what happened here. Oh, no, I see what happened. Okay. So I'm going to go back over here. I got it. Oh, select all selected, or Command A. I'm going to go edit. Define brush preset. I'm going to say tombstone 2. Boom. I want to make sure it's in my folder. Yep, it is. I don't know how it's automatically putting in the folder. It's actually kind of weird. Come over here, get another layer. Maybe this one's in the foreground. Same trick. I'm gonna, now you could do it with a rough eraser. I'm doing it with the smudge tool just because I haven't reloaded all my brushes yet. Oops. And I can start to build this little scene. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You don't have to ask me about my weekend, Ingrid.
What'd you do?
I entertained my girlfriend's friends all weekend, so I did nothing.
You entertained them, so you did nothing.
Yeah, it was really fun. My 3-day weekend, I did nothing.
Were they just watching you do nothing and they're like, yeah,
I am
Uh,
wildly entertaining.
yeah.
I took him up to the fire lookout, had him over for brunch, all that stuff.
I see.
I mean, nice people. They're cool people.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
I'd rather been out painting,
Oh,
but apparently the whole world conspires to make sure I never paint anymore, which is really frustrating.
oh.
That's my big crybaby moment.
Oh.
Well, sorry for me. Okay, now look, you can also select these things. So sometimes I might, let's see if I can do this. See if it makes any difference, actually. Okay, wait a minute. So I've selected it. I'm going to go behind it. So let's say this is tombstone foreground. Then I'm going to put a I'm going to put a layer behind it where I've got this whatever you call it selection made, and I'm going to go. So if you notice, if I back it with white, I start to get a little more of the detail of the stuff on the tombstone. You see that?
Yeah, I see.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
I see it.
I'm gonna go modify, contract. It looks like there's a little white coming out over there. I'll just contract by 1 pixel, invert, delete. That's a little better. So I'm just gonna, I wouldn't usually do this, but I'm gonna see there's the, it's basically like flashing. Do you guys know what flashing is?
No.
Like when you do a t-shirt like this,
Uh-huh.
when it's got color and stuff, they'll put a white opaque layer down. Then they'll start screen printing over it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the reason they do that is that these inks, they're not totally 100% opaque and all that kind of stuff. So if they're on a black shirt like this, these inks will go really dull because they're just on black. You know what I mean? Or gray, right? If they're on, if you don't have to do it on a white shirt, but you want a real clean, white, pristine surface so all those colors pop. So I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm creating like a flashing layer. And what that's doing is, because that thing's transparent, it's very dark, it sort of loses some detail, right?
Yeah.
So put this back on here, you can see that I've got, it's showing like more of the, I could probably, I don't know if I can do this. Let me see. It's weird how some things don't react on it. So I'm going to take these two things. I'm going to go here to my flyout menu and go merge layers. It's going to merge the layers I had selected. So now this is all on one layer. Now I can probably, yeah, see, I can pull a little bit back with my levels. So I'm going to come back here and do my smudge thing again. Oops. I do it really. I'm going to do it with my stylus. Because we don't want this just to be, it's not going to sit there just flat. Now we're starting to create this. Now I want to do it over here. Let's see. Let's do it over here. I'm gonna do it here too, just so I have to. Go here. I got my shape. I put it behind it, fill it. Oops. I gotta put it behind it. There it is. And you can see again, I'm gonna go select, modify, because I'm getting that little bit of fringe. So I'm gonna contract it 2 pixels here. Invert, delete. Yeah. And now I'm just, to make it simple, I'm going to combine these two like I just did. And now I'm getting a little more information. I'm going to leave this one a little silhouetted. This guy, I'm going to let go a little darker here. Now, on top of that, if you wanted, like this here needs to be, I'm going to take some of my, let me see if I can do this with the stamp tool. There's better ways of doing this, but this is how I'm going to do it. I don't want this thing in the foreground looking so, you know. Now, what I would probably do, yeah, that's not terrible. Now, I could start to light this a little bit. Let's try, let's start here. Back to my overlays. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. I'm going to go to overlay. Then I'm going to put another layer here. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to use the same color, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to go back to overlay. And I'm going to go to my hue saturation. Go to my thing, and I'm going to dial in a different color. But maybe there. I'm going to come up here. I'm doing this real sloppy. For this, it's not that big a deal. I want it to look reasonable, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Ah, shoot. Got to hold down shift if you're doing multiple selections. And then again, I'm going to put another layer. Go to sort of an orangey. Again, I'm always going to dial these in, so I'm not really that worried about the color I use initially. And if I find one that looks pretty good and it's too intense, I can dial it back. That's kind of interesting. I'm going to go here and maybe desaturate it a hair. And I'm going to go through the spectrum here and see if I, well, it's not changing. So it's okay. Needs to be more intense. I'm going to go back through here. We got to go backwards. I'll go back to normal. Get something that's a little more intense. That's better. And I could come down here and do these same things, you know. Maybe here. Maybe nobody's on the bottom floor, they're on the top floor. Now, another thing I do, sometimes when you have a lit window, you don't have to worry about this, but I mean, it's just something good to know. Yeah. If you have a light back in the back of the room, it's going to diffuse it through the window, but there could be like a light closer, like a lamp or something. So you'll get hot spots in the light because there might be a light close. There might be a light up above. So I'll just give it a hot spot here and there to sort of, because that's really what happens actually. You can see it helps it along a little bit. Does that make sense?
Thank
I'll
you.
see you guys in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.